Trish, the Yellow Power Ranger, and I am one of the co-owners of Ranger Stop and Pop. You got to come and hang out with me in Atlanta, Georgia, June 13th through the 15th. And I want to thank my friends at Blerdography for promoting the show. They are the best ever. But come and have fun. We're going to have Power Rangers and Power Rangers and more Power Rangers. You know why? Because it's wihenThe.
It's the hottest. We geeking out loud. Yeah, I'm a geek. We geeking out loud. I'm geeking out loud while you sneak around. See, I'm the one they speaking about. This key blast to throw you in the air and spin your feet.
What's going on, everybody? It's me, Mark. Welcome back to another episode of Blerdkast. And on today's episode of Blerdkast, I am joined by probably one of my favorite growing TikTok stars out there right now, who exclusively talks about Power Rangers and Super Sentai. I would like to introduce to the show for the first time, name redacted, but also known as the Sentai Guy. Give it up for the Sentai Guy. See how weird that is? But welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to discuss Power Rangers, Super Sentai, all the nerd stuff.
All right. That's what's up. So why don't you tell my audience, a bunch of other nerds, about yourself and your content and where they can find you online?
I am the Sentai Guy. I am found here as the Sentai Guy Rinsei on TikTok. I'm also on Blue Sky and Instagram under the moniker Sentai Guy as well. Of course, it's mainly Power Rangers, Super Sentai, but I sneak in a little other things like the video game preferences and everything.
Okay, cool. How long have you been doing TikTok?
Originally, I had another channel or another page where I did a lot of, it was just random posting, and I think I started that back 2020 when a lot of people started doing TikToks because, you know, the pandemic and everything. And then I wanted to branch out, and so I made a secondary account, which I think I did in 2020. It was actually 2021, but I didn't do anything with it until 2022, 2023. And I just, in my mind, I was like, you like Power Rangers, you like Super Sentai, why don't we just talk about that? And the rest is history.
Fascinating. And, you know, good point. Why not just talk about the things you love, right?
Exactly. Things that bring the joy in your life. Just to talk about things that bring you joy and to want to express it with others is like the ultimate. It's like the ultimate feeling, I guess. I don't know how to like put it into words, but to be able to express yourself like that is just really great.
No, I get that. Like, I get like really nerdy when I'm on my platform just talking about like certain stuff like Power Rangers, like Avatar, Star Trek, Star Wars, whatever the case may be. Pokemon, I love me some Pokemon. But yeah, I get it. Like when you find a community of people you can connect to, especially like the Black nerd community, we call ourselves Blerd. Most of us do anyway. That sense of community, family, and connection that you get from this subset of community of nerds is spectacular. I recommend Blerd culture to everybody that's invited, because not everybody's invited.
Yeah, but I do agree. It's refreshing to be able to see the Blerd community blossom as it does, because I know. I think a lot of people have a similar story where part of being a Blerd is having someone Black tell you that it's like, oh, Black people don't do this or Black people don't like that. And it like really deters you from wanting to express like your nerdy self. And then when you find your Blerd community and it's like, wow, people like me act like this stuff when I was told that they aren't supposed to. And it's relieving and it's freeing, you know.
No, I 100% understand that. Everybody in my audience, not everybody, but like a lot of people who I do talk to, the first thing they say is the Black people don't do this, Black people don't do that line. Like it's been ingrained in us like since birth. Like so many other Black colloquium sayings we can bring up. just from our childhood, but like that was definitely one of them that stood out to me, and kind of one of the reasons why I created my channel and niched it in the way that I did is because black people do these things. Black people are nerds. Black people are smart and intelligent and into Power Rangers and cosplay. Like when I found black people that cosplay, blew my mind. I was like, whoa, no, I literally thought black people do not do that except on like Halloween or something. But going to conventions and just meeting people, just indulging in my fandoms, my eyes have been open. It's like I went to college and I finally found a tribe of people, a bunch of other black nerds who heard the same stuff, who were also bullied, and also more importantly, just into the same stuff I was in. And we're all just in the same major, and we just clicked. Like finding your people, like that is really something, because like for the longest time, and I'm sure you can relate, I literally thought I was alone, even like middle school and high school, and I had friends who were into the same stuff. It was like 4 or 5 of us, but then like 20 of
Yeah.
us in college, 30, 40 of us, and then it just kept growing and growing and growing, and now we have all these conventions. I'm sorry, I was pontificating.
You're
Let's
good. You're good.
But no, you're right though. Like the blurred community is part of like I found myself in the blurred community. Like I'm a 37, almost 38-year-old adult, and I'm still discovering who I am as a person just because I finally found a drive of people that I can let down those walls with and just be myself and don't have to worry about judgment, persecution, or anything, and just be with like-minded people.
That's it. That is it. Talking about college, that was the same thing. Though where I am, finding somebody like me is kind of few and far between. But when I got to community college and I found my group and we just were able to express ourselves, there was uh, but before I had introduced my friends to they of course knew about Power Rangers, but they didn't know about the origins of Power Rangers. And I introduced them to Super Sentai, but there was there's viewings of Super Sentai with me. There would be like giant Yu-Gi-Oh duels or Magic duels. At one point, we started bringing in. At the time, it was right before Smash Ultimate came out on the Switch. We would be bringing in the Wii U to play Super Smash Bros. 4. One friend would bring in the projector. I'd bring in the Wii U and the controllers, and we would just be playing these games before going to class. And it was great. It was great.
Before going to class, I would skip class to just get ready for a melee tournament. I went to college a lot earlier in life than you did, but melee was our game, and we would all get together in my dorm room and not be college students. We would just oh my god, the memories. Oh my god, I hate Smash. I swear to God, I hate that video game. My friends are terrible.
Ah, oh man. Gosh, when did for me melee would have been late middle school, I think.
Oh, I feel
And
this.
it was that was before I had the understanding and the mechanics. But as soon as I learned about the competitive aspect, if you're not good friends with your friends, that can really cause
I don't
a
know.
ripple.
We fought a lot, and I was the button masher, so I had the worst end of it.
Oh gosh, button
And I would
mashers.
always play as Pikachu and just down B, and they hated that. And they hated that. Then the next game came out and had Little Mac in it, and they were so mad that because I got good with Little Mac.
Oh no, if we're talking about Little Mac, listen. One of my good friends, he was he is we we were playing Smash 4, and I don't know how it ended up, but it was after class, and at this point I'd learned how to play on more of a competitive level. I'm not playing competitively, but I know how to play competitive like. And so he's like, I'm gonna beat you with Little Mac. I'm like, I'd like to see you try. And I picked Ganondorf, and I swear it was about 15 to 20 matches where I just mollywopped him. And he's like, he just wanted to keep going again and again and again. And like after the last loss, I'm like, we still cool, right? And he just looked at me and I just laughed. But
We
But
broke
it's
a
just
table that night. Oh,
yeah. I just imagine he went home and just went "Grr," right into this table. But it's just moments like that are just so great. They're it's just wonderful to think about. Having friends like that to be able to do things like that again after being told that we as black people aren't supposed to do this or do that. And a lot of that was including playing video games, which is just it's hurtful, you know?
yeah, yeah, I get it. Especially when the call comes from inside the house and it's literally
Yeah,
your own family that's
yeah.
telling you these things. And I'm like, oh my God. Like okay. I know this is a little off topic, but this is a memory. It doesn't haunt me, but I think about it a lot. I was 13. I had just moved with my dad and my uncles. One of my relatives was in town and they were visiting, and I was home from school. I think it was 8th grade or ninth grade, and I was watching TRL. This was like 2001, 2002, 2001. So this was middle
Mhm.
school. I'm watching TRL. The band POD is playing. I'm just kind of discovering my sense of music and my sense of self because I'm like, yeah, I grew up listening to hip hop and rap and R&B, but I don't feel like that relates to me. And then pop music was really popular, so NSYNC and Britney Spears and all that stuff. So I kind of went down that train a little bit. So I was watching TRL. POD was playing. My family's already jumping down my throat about going to church and things like that. If you know, or if you don't know, POD is a Christian rock band, but they hit really popularity in mainstream back in the day. I was just listening to the song because Snoop was on or something like that, and I wanted to watch the Snoop interview, and they just walked in at the end of the video playing, and it was like, "Whoa, what are you listening to that White Devil music for?" And I'm like, I'm waiting for this Snoop Dogg interview. I'm just watching TV. I'm 13. Chill out. But long story short, the point of that whole story was that kind of pushed me to like be rebellious and just like do the things that they said kept saying black people don't do.
Mhm.
So I grew up like listening to rock music and heavy metal versus hip hop and R&B. I grew up watching all the weird stuff, which was kind of weird because my dad also like grew up watching Ultraman and Godzilla, and he kind of got me into this nerd stuff. But seeing my father being bullied by my uncles, his brothers, and then them bullying me, grown men bullying a child for liking nerd stuff because that's what they did to my dad was so weird and caused so much trauma that I now as an adult unpacking on podcasts like this. But like it's so weird that I find so many people that I can connect with who've been through the same thing.
Oh
But
yeah,
I
it's
was going with all that.
oh you're good. I was just while listening to that, I was thinking I'm like I'm grateful for my mom because I had showed interest in video games, and instead of like suppressing that, she you know to dote on her son. I my first console was like she got me was the Sega Genesis, and I was able to play that, and a lot of others in my family did play video games at the time. Like my older cousin, I remember that he was like decked out with like the NES, the Sega Genesis, SNES, and I think that's where I developed my love for it. But I'm grateful to him. I'm grateful to her. But along the lines, there was still other family members like you shouldn't be playing that. And then crazy enough, I want to say like if you remember during like the early 2000s where all the pastors were getting up on their podiums saying that Pokemon was evil and everything, and to remove it from your life and all that.
I
And
don't
instead of
remember that, but I remember when they did it with Power Rangers. Because like that was like elementary school for me, and my grandma taking me to church, and they was like, "Oh, Power Rangers are the devil," and I'm like, "How? How are they the devil when they literally fight evil 5 days a week? How are they the devil?"
literally,
And then,
literally,
like even so like I struggled reading a lot growing up, and one book series or two book series that I used to love reading that helped me out was Animorphs and Goosebumps. And
oh,
Animorphs had like kids turning into animals, so the
yeah,
church thought that was demonic. And Goosebumps, obviously demonic. So I was bullied out of reading at a very early age because the books I wanted to read, the scholastic books,
mm,
were not Christian enough, or The devil. That's what they said. It was the devil.
It's so crazy that all this stuff that's like just misunderstood, they just label as the devil's work and they just try to get rid of it.
Hell, I
It's
remember when Dragon Ball Z first started getting popular, and people was like, "Oh, this Japanimation stuff is weird and blah blah blah, and adults shouldn't be watching this." But my whole entire household, because it was a household full of men, for whatever reason, gravitated towards it because it was violent, because it was cartoonish, and it was like for kids, but also for adults, and not for this audience or whatever. But everybody in my household, everybody at school, for whatever reason, gravitated towards Dragon Ball Z. That was the gateway anime for most black people, especially black men. It wasn't for me because I was introduced to anime and all this stuff much, much, much earlier in the 90s with my dad and watching like Baki the Grappler. You should not show your kids the original Baki the Grappler. It's too much for a 3-year-old to watch, but I watched it. Akira, when that came out, I saw it. Shouldn't have seen it, but I did. Still to this day, I'm like, I've seen Akira 100,000 times and I cannot tell you what that movie is about because it's so weird. I mean, like, I know what it's about, but it's so weird and abstract. It's so hard to describe.
Oh yeah, totally. Every time I think about Akira, I just hear them screaming at each other. Tetsuo!
Right, right. Or the motorcycle slide that's so synonymous throughout pop culture because it's been referenced and redone so many times. But getting back to the story, I forgot where we were. But yeah, I remember back in my day, it was Power Rangers. The church was like, it's the devil, and just how it's so weird how the black community has shifted so quickly, at least in my mind, so quickly to accept nerd culture and certain other aspects, and still also, I hate to say it, still ass backwards as a community. With so many other things, like if you can accept anime, why can't you accept gay pride? Like that doesn't make sense at all. But whatever. Whatever. We're here to talk about Power Rangers and Super Sentai. That was a weird intro to this whole thing.
I know. We just had to get it out, man. It's just
Hey, you're right. We had to get it out. But since we're finally talking about it, what got you into Power Rangers? What were your first seasons you watched, and then how did you make the transition to Super Sentai? Because nobody starts with Super Sentai unless you're in Japan.
no, that is true. Well, for Power Rangers, I wanted. This is going to be a weird story. I made a video about it. I must preface by saying that some of the videos that I might reference, I no longer have access to because my original account had been banned. So and I forgot. I'd never had the opportunity to save some of those videos. But I remember making one where I talked about how my mom's a thrift shopper. Well, a bit thrifty, but she really likes deals. And this is funny enough. Before I realized, let me go back. My earliest memory of Power Rangers is when I was at my uncle and aunt's house getting ready for school, and it was on at like 8 o'clock in the morning. I think at this point it was like in syndication. It was Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and I just remember seeing the Red Ranger locked away fighting Goldar. Jason locked away fighting Goldar. I don't know why, but I remember watching that. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. But I couldn't sit and watch the whole thing because I had to get to school. But it was later that, as a kid, it just, you see something, you just kind of forget about it. But then just out of the blue, my mom had bought, it was soap. And I know it's as crazy as it was, but there was Mighty Morphin Power Rangers soap. And that reminded me, I'm like, wow, I remember watching that. I ended up getting back into it, but it wasn't, I want to say I would catch glimpses of like Turbo and in space, but I remember actually sitting down watching, really watching in the Disney era when it was on Jetix, and then Jetix would have the others in syndication, so I caught up on all the seasons that I missed. But I remember starting with really sitting down and starting with like Wild Force. Getting the first hint of Super Sentai was during Power Rangers Dino Thunder. I think the episode's called Lost in Translation.
Yes.
Where they had the the Super Sentai Aba Ranger. Didn't know it was called Aba Ranger at the time, but they just packaged it as a parody of Dino Thunder. And seeing that, I was like, wow, that's really interesting. But where I got into Super Sentai was an old friend of mine who had was very interested in tokusatsu stuff, and he would bring it up a lot. And I would be thinking, wow, I should probably like look into it. So back when the internet was more, when stuff was, you could find stuff on the internet. Yeah, I found a place to watch some stuff. But then it just so happens around the time that I started to get into Super Sentai, Shout Factory had announced that they were going to be releasing old seasons, starting with Zoodanger. So from there, I just picked up with that and just bought all the ones they released and have been keeping up with it since. And I think that was like 2015. So it's been a long going adventure.
Okay, okay. So I gotta ask you, what are your favorite seasons of Power Rangers, and what are your favorite seasons of Super Sentai, and are they the same or do they differ?
They're gonna differ. I want to say one of the it's a lot of people's picks, but I really, really love Power Rangers SPD. I want to say that's probably my number one pick. It's just because out of all that I've watched, I think I was the most excited watching that one. Not only because, you know, we have a Red Ranger who's black, but it's just the story itself is, I remember resonating with it. I don't know why exactly, but it just, starting off with teams that are like, you know, Jack and Sky were like at odds with one another, but then over time seeing them, become more in a becoming more comrades. Is something about that I really enjoyed seeing. And I want to say what else. Of course, Power Rangers. Shout out to Power Rangers Time Force. Really love that one. I think you have to forgive me because I'll end up mixing up names, but the villain Raznik. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's been a
I
while.
think that's it
Yeah,
for Time Force, right?
yes. I really like the fact that it's he was a just how they did what they did with him, where he's the villain, but it's not like it wasn't black and white. And then later seeing him in Wild Force as having a redemption arc, I really respected that. But really love Time Force. Of course, the OG Mighty Morphin, and but compared to my Super Sentai picks, a lot of people ask me what my favorite ones are, and they always switch. I will say that I do rank Time Force and Time Ranger about the same. So it's probably one of the few that I like. I'm like, I love Time Force and I love the Super Sentai version. But for the others, it's kind of I want to say, it's a bit of hit or miss. I'm literally trying to go through my brain and I'm like, what do I think I love the most out of all of the Super Sentai? Because there's like, I'll wake up and be like, yeah, that's my favorite one. And I'll think about, well, no, this is my favorite one. And it's hard to pick a favorite. But I want to say just for now, I'll say that my favorite one is, it still probably is. I think my number one favorite Sentai is Time Ranger, just because of the story. There are some problems with it, with how some of the characters are coded. Like in that story, there's Time Yellow, Domon, and he's a bit. Some of his tendencies are a bit misogynistic, and so it hasn't aged that great. But everything else I really love about Time Ranger. Of course, there's some newer ones that I really love, like Dawn Brothers. Dawn Brothers was a wacky adventure, and I loved every minute of it. The story might not have been as cohesive as other Super Sentai stories, but it's the main character, Don Momotaro. I don't know what it is about him and his antics, but it got two thumbs up for me.
It's the over top. It's that over top performance for me. Like he really sold that role with that laugh and like just the
Yeah.
random BS. Like, why are like geisha girls coming out of nowhere and sumo dudes lifting him up with a with on the wooden plaque with the on the motorcycle? Like, that's
Yes,
crazy. The fact that they didn't know who the other members were for like the longest time, like I was like, oh, like what the heck is this? That Don Brothers is the most anime Super Sentai there is. And
that is
like
a
it's in between Zenkaiger and King Oger. And I'm just like, oh my god. And now we got like go number one Sentai Go Juger. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, that's anime and video games put together right there.
everybody sharing that clip of the 10-hit combo.
Yes, yes. When I saw that, I was like, dude, where has this been?
Oh yeah, that was. I was like, man, I saw. I'm like, I'm looking. I'm like, I feel like I'm watching Tekken. I'm like, just
Yeah,
finish
that's
it
what
up.
I said. I was like, come from. So I'm very interested in Gojuju. Man, okay. So my favorite Sentai will have to be Gokaiger, just because it was the 35th anniversary. You know, it was a love letter to Super Sentai. Very
100%.
well written. It made me could not wait for Power Rangers to adapt it into Power Rangers, and then they did, and then I was like, no, no, bad Saban.
Get
Bad.
my spray bottle. Bad,
Oh my
bad.
god.
I
I'm
it.
sorry. I'm one of those people that hate on Super Mega Force, but it deserves to be hated on. I'm sorry. Um
Listen. If you know, there'll be some times where instead of me coming to the camera, I'll just make a meme, and most of my memes are hating on that or Samurai, just because it just doesn't feel. It was a bad call. Super Mega Force was a bad call when you not only take one whole Super Sentai season and try to fuse it together with another one and condense that down from like what Super Sentai is roughly about 45 to 50 episodes each. So you're taking essentially 100
plus the
episodes
movies
plus the movies,
and
and
the
then condense
crossovers.
them. And you condense them down to no more than like 30 episodes, and it just really dropped the ball. And I always feel so bad because there'll be somebody that's like, I like it. I'm like, that's cool. That's like your opinion, man. But it's,
Yeah, I just like when people say they like Super Mega Force or Mega Force and Super Mega Force was their introduction to Power Rangers. I pity them. I just have so much pity. I tell them that there is better. You just have to go back in time 20 years during the Disney era when it was really popping, and and just sorry, Power Rangers has failed you. If that's your favorite, Power Rangers has failed you, and you have no hope in life, and you need Jesus. You need Jesus. If that's, I'm sorry, I can't. Super Mega Force was such a letdown. We're gonna go into a rant about that much later.
okay.
But going back to the original question, my favorite season of Power Rangers is probably the original because I was around when it was first aired and I was 6 and it was the best thing ever to me. So like, and don't get me wrong, I have issues with the first 3 seasons, but like that's where my heart is. Like season 1, season 2, season 3, that's prime Power Rangers to me. But the Disney era, I'm not a big Time Force fan for some weird reason because I was in 11th grade and I was getting too old for it. But SPD is my shit. Sorry for cussing on my own podcast, but SPD is my
No,
shit.
you're good. You're good.
Ninja Storm is my shit. Dino Thunder is my shit. Wild Force is mid. Lightspeed Rescue. Carter saves that, and the Platinum Rangers saved that whole season to me. I used to like, I hated not Lightspeed Rescue, Lost Galaxy, but Lost Galaxy's really good.
I was gonna say, just thinking about Lost Galaxy, I really respect them during that time where the actress, and forgive me because I cannot remember her name right offhand, but during that time she had been diagnosed with cancer,
Right.
and you know that's how she ended up getting written off the show with during the whole Psycho Pink arc. They left her name in the title sequence so she could get paid for those episodes, which I really respect. And I always think about that when thinking about Lost Galaxy. Not only is it a good season, but they did good by her by making sure she had payments for her treatments.
That's I didn't know that actually, huh? And I feel
Mm-hmm.
like I should know that. But also that's weird for Power Rangers during the Saban era to do something like that because they historically didn't pay their actors.
Yeah, that's the ironic part. What the history of not wanting to pay their actors more, and then even firing and replacing three during Mighty Morphin. But then they do something like that, and I'm like, I have mixed feelings about this.
Right. So yeah, no, you're right. Mixed feelings, 100%, 100%. I wanted to have you on the podcast so not only we could talk about Power Rangers and Super Sentai and just like gush over our favorite fandom, but I'm putting together this RSP week because it's the last con, the last Power Ranger convention in Atlanta, and I'm so heartbroken because obviously I love Power Rangers and obviously I'm from Atlanta, love the city. Since I was 6 years old, all I wanted was Power Rangers in Atlanta, and in 2019, I got that, and now we are going to celebrate this last year, allegedly.
Man.
Hopefully, Zordon comes and they'll find a new owner. I don't know what's going to happen. Hopefully, we'll have an RSP next year. But when we were setting up for the interview, you mentioned that you have yet to attend a Power Ranger convention specifically, and I mentioned maybe we can help each other out with that. So it's finally time I explain what I meant by that. So since you've never been to a Power Ranger convention, and I'm going to a Power Ranger convention, let me know what it is you want to see from Ranger Stop and Pop Atlanta 2025, and I will do my best to try to film it for you. Between the panels, the voice actors and actresses, the Rangers themselves, I'm hosting the trivia night. More on that later. It's gonna be packed full of fun, and the reason why I'm saying maybe we can help each other is because for those of you who don't know, I've been collaborating with Anime Secrets and Carnell Holly Pictures for the last 6 months doing RSP Lives, podcast where we talk about Ranger Stop and Pop and help promote the con. And I've been focusing on that. And now trivia night, I forgot to plan stuff to do at the actual convention. So I have no idea what to shoot or what to do. So maybe you can help me. What it is you want to see at Ranger Stop and Pop 2025?
That is a good question. More, I know your trivia night, of course. I want to see that. There's some who's, oh my gosh, who's all gonna. If you don't mind, I'm going to
Go for it.
1 second because I actually had this pulled up. Aha! Because I was looking.
Like I think the entire Mystic Force cast is going to be there, and this is like the first time they've reunited in years. So having like all of them minus Odana, that's going to be big. I think a lot of the Time Force Rangers are going to be there. I think most of SPD is going to be there.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
a lot of the
Oh my god.
OGs are going to be there. Obviously, Karen and Nakia and Kat are going to be there because they're mainstays. Walter E. Jones is going to be there. Austin St. John is going to be there. No comment.
Yeah, I just scrolled and saw him. He's like right at the top. I went, no, but push him away. Johnny Young Bosch. Wow.
That one's going to be hard. Like, I've been
Yeah.
hunting an interview with Johnny Young Bosch for 5 years before I even started this YouTube channel, and I've never been able to get an interview with Johnny Young Bosch. That one's hard. Even at a Ranger Stop and Pop convention, it's just never worked out.
If you can get to Brandon McLaren, if you could talk to him, like I said, SPD and him being the red SPD red, and I'm always reminded of I don't remember who he was talking to, but I remember he expressed his he was a bit upset when at the end of the story where he had stepped down from SPD, and that kind of effectively removed him from coming back. And I felt that a little bit for him, but it would always, if there was somebody to meet, it would be him. But there's so many amazing people that are going to be there too. But it's definitely Brandon. I remember after watching SPD, I saw some of his other projects he was in. He was in a show called The Best Years which was a story about a woman named Samantha Best, which is why it's called The Best Years. Ha ha ha! But he played one of her classmates into a romantic partner. That was a weird drama, but I quite enjoyed it. And he had some. I really got to see his acting chops there too, which was pretty cool.
Okay, so let me ask you, if you had a chance to talk to him or interview him, what would you want to ask him?
That is a good question. I think, of course, generically speaking, how it was to work on Power Rangers SPD. If he if he realized how much of an icon that he was to the kids and young teens that had watched him, and how if he did, how does he feel about knowing about that? How people loved and respected him, something like that.
Since we're talking about him, he's probably one of my favorite Red Rangers because, like, don't get me wrong, we had TJ before him. TJ's
Yeah.
really cool. TJ's not one of my favorite Red Rangers. He's one of my favorite Blue Rangers. But that's a story for a different day. But seeing him come on and portray the role as Jack, he had locks. He was a criminal in the beginning, but then was like, like you said, not everything's not black and white. Sometimes things are gray.
Yeah.
He was a gray moral character. He was he was looked at as a criminal because what he was doing, but he was really helping out an orphanage with Z, yeah, with Z, and and then he became a Power Ranger, but not only a Power Ranger, he became the leader. And like you said, that power struggles turned camaraderie, turned friendship with him and Sky was like chef's kiss. Like they
Definitely.
fought over who should be the leader for the longest in the beginning, and then that episode where Jack was like, "Here, take the Red Ranger Morpher, go avenge your father." I was
Oh,
like,
that was
"Yo, this season right here, right
yeah.
here. Oh my god, like that was so powerful." And then like Bridge as a character, Green Ranger, he's funny. Z's like really dope. Like I love their civilian powers, their civilian outfits with just the numbers and just oh my god, the
It,
theme song. Best theme song in the entire franchise. I kid you not.
yeah.
SPD emergency. Like, dude, the only thing I don't like about SPD is the Zords. Like, car Zords. Just the worst type of Zords they ever have in Power Rangers. But I digress. SPD is a good season.
It is, and it was all it was, and what makes that theme even more special is that Disney went and got Ron Wasserman to come back. It's like, hey, you rock the Mighty Morphin theme. Can you come back and do SPD for us? And he's like, say less.
Yeah. You can literally hear that conversation in the theme song. And I'm just like, why does this slap so hard and everything else in the Disney eras? Like, don't get me wrong, Dino Thunder is okay, Ninja Storm theme song's okay. No, it's actually really good, but like SPD was like when that came on the car, SPD emergency, it's just like this is a banger. That has been on
It
my
is,
playlist for 20 years now.
yes, it is. It is one of the best, and like I said, it's just so, like it's so. I don't want to say like I'm saying it's simplistic, but not. I'm saying that as a compliment because you just a few words and then bam, you're revved up to watch
Right.
that episode.
Right. And it gets you excited for what's to come. Like it perfectly matched the story the show was telling, the cast of characters, the atmosphere. It's the future 2025. I dig
Oh,
it.
hey now,
It's the emergency, like
yeah.
Power Rangers SPD to the rescue. Oh my god. I can't. Yes. Rangers on your side, heroes for all time, out to save the
The
universe.
universe.
That is my shit. I'm sorry. That
Yes.
is my shit. I get
Although
so
you,
hyped.
oh
Oh,
yeah,
we are some nerds. We are some nerds.
and it's so crazy because it's I don't know for how many seasons that they did it prior, but when I first found out that we have Super Sentai, they take the footage, make Power Rangers, then they take Power Rangers, dub it in Japanese, and release it in Japan, and that was one of the first times that I found out that they did that was with SPD, because I had stumbled upon it was an interview with the Decker Ranger cast. They were reprising their roles as their English counterparts. And I'm like, wow, that is
Wow, really?
insane. Yes. Yes. I think they might have done it with some Mighty Morphin, but I know they definitely did it with SPD, which is crazy.
I'm gonna give you some homework. If you can find the Japanese dubbed version of Power Rangers SPD, you'll be my best friend.
I will. All right. Challenge accepted. I don't know if I can find the whole thing, but I hopefully can find at
Any
least a
piece
clip.
of it, I will make a video about it because I was today years old when I found out that information you just said that came out your mouth. Like, I didn't know that. I know they did it in Korea. I know they did it in Indonesia with some seasons of Power Rangers, and then they dubbed it over into those countries. But I didn't know Japan dubbed Power Rangers. I knew like Power Rangers the first 3 seasons kind of helped save Super Sentai. Because it was in a down spiral for them when Power Rangers was finally released in the States around that time. And I know they've taken some Power Ranger ideas and put them into Super Sentai, like
Oh yeah.
Battlizers. Battlizers was a Power Ranger concept. Now every season in Super Sentai, they got some fantastic Battleizer BS.
Crazy enough, one of the first times that they did it was Power Rangers SPD. They took that Battleizer and put it into the Magi Ranger versus Deca Ranger movie, and from there it was history.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay. 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 All right. All right. So let me ask you another question since we're talking about Power Rangers. This is for my Ranger Stop and Pop week where every day I'm having a new video or new interview with somebody that's either adjacent to the Power Ranger community, makes content about the Power Ranger community, or was like literally in Power Rangers. So next week I have interviews with Rick Schick. I have interviews with Beauty Baba Yaga, if you're familiar with her. I have an
Oh
interview
yeah,
Kevlock. That interview, okay. The interview with Beauty Baba Yaga, she said some stuff I cannot wait to get out there on the internet and I can make some shorts
hey,
with. She had me laughing the entire time. She's such a wonderful being in person to just be around, and she's so knowledgeable of Power Rangers, and her story is so interesting because she didn't start with Power Rangers like how me and you did. She literally just got into it, and it's her favorite thing ever. Kevlock, when we started talking about the diversity and just the history of black people in Power Rangers, that was really deep. So I can't wait for those to come out. But
yeah.
the thing I'm going to ask you that came from both of those interviews is this, and this is something I'm going to run with throughout the whole summer. But what lore in Power Rangers, what unanswered questions, unfinished storylines in Power Rangers, and you know, since you're the Sentai guy, I'm going to include Super Sentai, keep you up at night
What keeps me up at night?
in Power
Um,
Rangers? And I'll
in
give you an
Power,
example. I'll give you one example. For me, it's in Super Mega Force when Jake asked Ghost,
the colors. I was yes. He's like, why am I green? He's like, well, that's an easy explanation, and it just cuts.
right,
That is one. That is what I want to know. What Gosei was going to say. I want to know what he was going to say if he was going. They just cut it as a joke, but they could have talked about the color spectrums. Since we talked about Beauty Baba Yaga, uh,
right,
there's a video. I really respect that she made about the the color spectrum of like how different teams have different colors and how it is on the spectrum. And I was like, I don't think Saban could ever have come up with that theory, and they just had that as a cutaway joke. But I want to know what he was going to say about the color. I really do.
okay.
Um,
I'm gonna give you another one from the same season, and I'm like, but they literally had the answer right there. They just needed to put the line together. But when Gosei introduced, you now have power sets from Rangers that have never appeared before on Earth before. And in my mind, I'm like, but where did they appear? Are they from Eltar? Are they from the Aquatar planet from Aquisha or whatever it's called? Sentai 6? Like, you had Sentai 6 here this whole time
and
and you
they
did
did
nothing
nothing
with
with
it.
it. They did nothing with it. Yeah, I you're right. It could have been easily explained away with, being powers from Aquitar, Eltar, another planet. It could have just been we have Ranger teams on
Ravcon,
different planets
KO
anywhere.
35. all this
any
stuff.
planet. They set up all these planets, but they couldn't set up the powers to be from those planets. That they really dropped the ball on that one. They
Okay.
really did.
Okay, but go for it. I know I named probably the best two examples, but those are really ones that just piss me off. But there are so many other ones from the series.
Let me see, because it's been a while since I've delved into that. I know what I want to talk about Sentai related, but for Power Rangers, I just, even though they did some of the things in the comics, but they just kind of like Power Rangers Turbo. They introduced the Phantom, is it the Phantom Knight, the
Phantom
Phantom
Ranger.
Ranger. They introduced the Phantom Ranger. We have all these theories on who the Phantom Ranger could be, but we never get a definitive answer. It's just it's like there he is, and that was it. I'm like, who is this guy? Do it. And I know I think they did some stuff in the comics, but I still it's still a burning question. Like it said, you introduce this character, and that's it. What happened?
You know, they had a really good opportunity in Cosmic Fury when they introduced Billy back to have
Yeah,
him like kind of like not only they could have used him to just be like, oh yeah, I was the Phantom Ranger or something, like how he dropped that line when he was in the Wolf Cosmic Zord and he was like, oh, a wolf, this feels familiar. They could have did something like that, like, oh yeah, I was the Phantom Ranger this one time, or another plot hole that never got resolved. Oh yeah, I created the Master Morpher and I can, morph between my different power sets because of proxy coins. Something.
something, but they dropped the ball, and I'm like, and it's crazy because if they had him drop that line, Master Morpher, they could have made another Master Morpher toy, and then boom, more money.
Oh,
Just
they
that
would have made
simple.
so much money. We
That's
would
just
probably still have Power Rangers on there if they had just did play their cards right. They had the cards in their hand, and it was like, nope, we're gonna keep it for kids.
yep. They really did drop the ball on that one.
What's your Super Sentai one?
This one's more of a multi-season thing. We have the crossover movies, right, to indicate that the teams are supposed to exist in the same universe, right?
Right.
But at the same time, we had the introduction of the counterpart to RPM, Go Onger. They had the ability to transport between via different worlds. But then after that, there's in Zenkaiger where it says that each Super Sentai was in its own universe. So I'm like, what is the correct lore behind that? Is it like is it like we're teleporting like through dimensions like they have it set up in the Power Rangers universe, or if it's just something continuity wise? I'm like, is it a separate universe? Are some of the teams in the same universe? Oh, and I forgot to mention there's also Q Ranger, where they were in an alternate Earth and then they popped up and ended up on, I guess we'll call it Earth Prime, and then they work with Deca Ranger and then other tokusatsu heroes like Space Gavin and whatnot. And then that brings into consideration the Super Sentai and Kamen Rider it exist in the same universe or not, because they can meet up. It's just, I just want to know if they all exist in the same world or if it's different dimensions. I want to say I figured it could be different dimensions, and they set it up like that. But at the same time, you have these crossover movies, and of course, Go Kaiser established that everything prior to it was all together. So it's like
Hell,
I'm
Gokaiger
confused.
established everything after that is in the same universe because of Gokaiger
Yes,
10
yes,
years
yes, yes,
later.
yes. Right, because they met back up with Zoolger, and then they had their what was it? Their anniversary movie, and they still had access to the newer powers. But then, like I said, you get to Zenkaiger, and it's like, hey, it was all each Rangers in like its own specific universe world, and I'm like, but what happened?
Okay. So I'm gonna give you one from some Super Sentai that still to this day pisses me off. because they were setting it up to explain it, and then they just never did. So you mentioned Zenkaiger himself, Kaito, who is the leader of the
Oh,
Zenkai team, and then in Dawn Brothers, he's Zenkai Black, same
what?
suit, just monochromatic, summons the Zord, and
And then
in their crossover movie with Zenkaiger, they were supposed to explain that, and they hinted at it, and they even joked about it, but they never explained why Kaito was Zenkaiger and Zenkai Black in two different seasons. And like, is Kaito like the Prime Ranger thing, dude, or is Kaito Black? And then what happened to the other Zenkai Rangers? Because we got Zenkai Red, and they joked about there being Zenkai Yellow, Blue, and all these other colors, and we never see them
never.
except Zenkai Red, Zenkaiger, Zenkai Black, and Two Kaiser.
During Dawn Brothers, I sat there trying to speculate what the cause was. And do you remember? Oh, I'm going to put a spoiler warning for Zenkaiger. So if anybody hasn't seen Zenkaiger that wants to, I'll keep this brief. Hopefully, just skip over this part. I'm going to pause for a second. All right, for the people that have seen it, the end of remember the end of Zenkaiger, right? Where
Yes.
I thought that the Kaito in Dawn Brothers was just that god essentially that took his form. I thought it was him in another universe. I had speculated that for this whole thing. I was like, he talks kind of, he's got a calm demeanor about him, and that's how he talks at the end of Zenkaiger. But the answer was right there, but they didn't use that either. It's just, and then they end up like, hey, who's that? Looks like you, and then that's it. I'm like, no explanation. I'm like, was it a alternate parallel world, or the world may never know?
And then for like a second, I thought Goju Polar was going to be a Kaito, like until I saw the reveal of who it was going to be. I was like, oh, okay. Well, we'll never know the answer. Think good job, Super Sentai. But no, I have a lot of the same concerns. Like Gokaiger did say, like, hey, all these things are together. And what about Space Gavin, whatever, and Space Sheriff series and Super Sentai and Common Rider? They all have to exist in the same universe. What about Decade? He's just going back and forth between worlds in the Common Rider universe. And then he fought Gokai Red.
Yep.
That was my fuck the MCU. Fuck the MCU. My end game
Greatest cross.
was the 199 legendary battle.
Oh, the 109. Yes, that just that opening sequence. The world is in danger, and all the Rangers just come in, and you just see these shots, and just from like a cinematic view, it's just so great that you start with like what you consider to be like your auxiliary Rangers or your Ranger adjacent characters, and then it just starts going into the core teams and everything, and you just see this
Right.
gigantic fight, and I'm just like that's it. I'm like, everybody can have their Avenger Infinity War, or in game, but the 199 battle was where it was. That's just 5 minutes of just pure excitement, pure me fanboying, essentially. Just
Right.
it is just, wow.
Moi. Just moi. And since I said we'll put a pin in and go back to it, back to the Super Mega Force. Hey, so one thing that really irked me about Super Mega Force is, so there was a scene in Gokaiger where they had like the toy boxes come up out of nowhere and they summoned like other Megazords, and I was like, why didn't Super Mega Force use that footage? Why was that not footage for them to use?
That is a good question. That was the one. That's one of the things that they decided to cut, which was insane. It's
And the Zords they brought up were all Power Ranger Megazords. I'm like, Gokaiger set Power Rangers up for so much success.
and they
They
didn't.
literally had to just copy and paste and easily explain away the stuff that don't make sense, the Super Sentai stuff that's only Super Sentai. And they even had the right line. These are power sets from other Rangers that have never appeared here on Earth before, and they screwed up the whole Dang.
They did. I think one of the biggest missed opportunities is that they put all their cameos at the end, aside from two. I know they had Casey from Jungle Fury
Right.
appear in one episode, and I'm blanking out on the second one right now. But they could have. One thing, we're back to talking about Saban not wanting to spend money. From
Right.
interviews from interviews from past Rangers, they talked about how they were invited to be part of the show, but essentially it was nana nana boo boo. You got to pay your own way. So, and that's like an investment that they can't make. That's like I don't know. And it was for at the it was for the end for the legendary battle. So they were literally told essentially last minute, and so a lot of them probably had other stuff that they were had to work on or prior engagements, and so they just couldn't hop on a plane and go to New Zealand, which begs the question: why didn't they try to do more of the like a singular ranger cameo during an episode? We had so many during Gokaiger. Like I know there's some that that were referencing there that they couldn't do. Like oh my gosh, oh my gosh, Jetman. I how oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his name. You have to forgive me. Sometimes I blank out on the names. But is it Joe? He's I almost said Joe the Condor, but that is actually Go Force. My mistake. But there was I'm going to kick myself for not knowing, but there was a cameo. He is essentially gone, but he comes back. It is actually a beautiful episode to have him back and everything. But I know you can't do stuff like that. But there were others that made appearances, like Gingaman. Gingaman had an appearance, so they literally could have like shown uh Lost Galaxy, the brothers. They could have shown them. They could have had an episode dedicated to them if they wanted to mirror those a little bit. There were chances for them to do it, but they didn't take it, and they didn't want to have any cameos until the very end. Which, don't get me wrong, it was good. It was some of the people that showed up for the cameos are amazing. Of course, you have Jason David Frank, and you had the actress that played Cassie, and so many others. But they could have, like, at least to attempt to make it better, they could have had like the single cameo people to appear, throughout the season, and then have like this huge meetup at the end. It would have added a little bit more. But again, with how it was structured, it's already a bit of a rocky ship.
Well, yeah, not only everything you just said, but then like how they changed the footage from the Sentai to the Power Rangers footage, and they like took out Rangers from certain teams because they were making cameos in person on the walk up. So like there
Yeah,
was a red Turbo Ranger because Tommy's in his green uniform and TJ's in his blue and space uniform. So that begs the question: which Turbo team is there? Is it TJ's Turbo team or is it Tommy's Turbo team? Like so many weird questions and things. Like so many things go unanswered. Oh my god, I can have a whole episode just shitting on Super Mega Force, and it's not like I'm like I talk bad about it because I'm so disappointed in what we got.
that's what I tell people. I'm like, for it to be referencing
20
Gokai,
years.
yeah, it's 20 years of Power Rangers history, and it's taking from Super Sentai's 35th anniversary. As you said before, Gokaiger was a love letter to Super Sentai. I just wanted that same love that was done for Gokaiger to show up in Power Rangers Super Mega Force. But it was already a stretch, again, when you're taking two different seasons and trying to smush them together into one. I don't
100%
know.
agree.
I always tell people that when Saban got the rights back, I think they should have just probably maybe skipped over Samurai. I know they wanted to get something out or work on something, but I think it would have been for the best that if they wanted to recapture like that actual magic of like having like I don't want to say it was like a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers 2.0, but if they want to have that jumping point, like a not like a reboot, but if they want well, I guess it would be like Mighty Morphin. If they want to have Mighty Morphin for that generation, they probably should have gone fully into just Power Rangers Megaforce being Gosager. And then when they had worked on that, then they could have done the 20th anniversary and had like a full. I know Nick had it split into 2 seasons. Call it something else other than Megaforce. Still use Gokaiger footage, and then boom, it's whatever they named it, and then Super whatever they named it, and then they would have had more time to develop it. But instead, they're like, let's just try to fit it together, and it didn't work. It did not work at all.
Yeah, okay. Couple of things. One, Nickelodeon was dead wrong for having a regular season and a super season. That was freaking garbage leading up to Super Mega Force. So glad Hasbro stopped that. If you're gonna make the season 20 episodes and the second season 20 episodes, you might as well just make one season 40 episodes.
That's right. Have like a hiatus in between. It's like, hey, we're finished with part 1 of this season. Take a bit of a hiatus, and we'll start with the second part.
Right. Another thing, I do agree. Maybe they shouldn't have started with Power Rangers Samurai. Don't get me wrong. I'm happy they did it, but as much as I'm talking crap about Super Mega Force, I can talk crap about Samurai, Super Samurai, Ninja Steel, Super Ninja Steel, Dino Charge, Super Dino Charge. Although I kind of like that one a little bit more than the other ones, in Mega Force and Super Mega Force. The term too Japanese for Power Rangers has been a thing for a very long time when it comes to like Super Sentai and what they adapt over. When RPM ended and they had that year hiatus or whatever until they came out with Super or with Samurai, they could have they could have done so many things. They could have did Go Busters, which they eventually did. Beast Morphers, they went out of order for whatever reason when they didn't really have to, since they end up doing some of those anyway. Power Rangers Samurai was a missed opportunity for them to finally have an Asian or an East Asian Red Ranger being hopefully someone who was Japanese. Hell, you could have had the whole cast of half Japanese people. It would have made for a better story because I don't buy like the Blue Ranger being an Olympic swimmer also training to be a samurai. I'm not buying that stuff. The story that Shikinger was telling was amazing, but this blonde hair, blue eyed Jaden Sheba, I'm not believing is a descendant of the Sheba clan, and his sister Lauren, who is equally blonde hair and blue eyed. Like, I hated that change. Like, you could have went Asian there, but you deliberately wanted to Americanize it.
That's one thing that I'll always say is that that was really off, and it felt like it was it's a bit of cultural appropriation with how they did that. Like you said, if they had gotten someone of like an actor of Japanese descent, or a couple, or the whole team, because they're out there. They are out there in Hollywood. It's just a lot of people make that conscientious decision not to hire them, like they do with a lot of other folk, which is just absurd and obtuse. But yeah, I don't mean to. What I dislike about Samurai is that it's literally a tale that is rooted in samurai and lordship. And I'm currently watching Shinkinger. It's seeing that, and I'm like, they tried to do that in Samurai, and it's just like, this does not feel right at all.
Right.
On the topic of the super being a super season, those designs in the Super Samurai, not a fan of that either. Just
you mean you don't like the Super Mega mode when they go into the Zords for some reason to sell other toys? Like, I didn't get that.
Nope. That's for me.
Now I will say, Shogun mode is dope. Shogun mode, all 5 or 6 of them having the Shogun mode, that's dope. But the Super Mega mode was dumb.
Yeah, nah. Yeah,
and the folding sword, like they already had spin swords. Why did you have to make them folding swords in the Zords? That didn't make sense either.
It just to sell more stuff. I guess, when it comes to like when it comes to stuff within tokusatsu or just anything in general, really, merchandising.
Yeah, I get it. Cause like the toy sales is what drives Super Sentai, like how it drives Power Rangers. But Bandai Japan is a lot better in their merchandising than Power Rangers is because we just get the cheap plastic crap. They actually make
Literally.
collectibles in Japan. One last thing before we move on about Samurai. The biggest thing for me, and this was literally every season since RPM, the tone shift. Like when they went on that hiatus and they came back, they were RPM was this mature, very young adult storyline apocalyptic tale of the world ending because like in space, they thought, hey, this is it for Power Rangers. Let's just throw everything at the wall and just who cares? Let's just tell a good story. And they did. For the second time in Power Rangers history with in space being the first time where they threw caution to the wind, and the second time being RPM, they made really great, compelling, dark, twisted stories that helped propel Power Rangers into the future when it was supposed to be the series finales both time. When Samurai came out, and how literally it went from being young adult to 4 year olds was the biggest like turn off to a lot of especially like the older fans like myself because this is post college at this point and now I'm like, yeah, I love Sikanger, I love Go Busters and Lupat and Tokyudra and all these other seasons of Super Sentai. I want to see them adapted into Power Rangers, but Power Rangers is for 4 year olds now. When I mean, granted, it was always for kids, but it was never for little kids. So
Yeah.
so yeah, that was just one thing that deterred me from every season since Samurai.
To be fair, I felt about the same way. I tried watching Samurai, could not get into it. Knowing that the anniversary stuff was coming, I tried to watch Megaforce and Super Megaforce. It was hit or miss. I know I watched the last little bit with the legendary battle. Um, I did, and I know a lot of other Power Ranger creators swear that Dino Charge is pretty good. But at that point, aside from watching, I think Dimensions in Danger, which was like what the 25th anniversary special,
Right.
I watched that. But other than that, I didn't really watch that. And at that point, I lost track of it with when they came out with Ninja Steel, and I'm like, oh, what's this? The Ninja? Oh, I'm okay. And saw what they did with that. It just, yeah, it felt like it. And we get it. It is at the end of the day, it is a show for kids, but a show for a kid now, depending on the show, is a lot different than what it was for us as kids.
No,
I
no,
know,
I
like,
agree. I agree. I don't mean to cut you off, but like that's a great point to talk about shows like Gravity Falls and Steven Universe and
yeah,
Young Justice and all these
yes,
other amazing shows, Avatar: The Last Airbender, Legend of Korra, that have come out like in the last 10 to 15, 20 years have been really good, well-written shows that kids get, but adults are sucked into. Like I still to
yes,
this day sing Steven Universe songs. Didn't care that it was a show about queer representation. I was there for the musicals. It makes
yes.
sense now that I think about it out loud. The fact that they just dumbed down Power Rangers and did not trust their audience was such a letdown.
I did get back into it with Beast Morphers, but it's just still a bit watered down.
Yeah,
Dino Fury and Cosmic Fury kind of like pick up a little bit with what they added. You know, you get a nice dissectable taste of like queer representation in Dino Fury, enough for like the kids to understand what's going on, and enough that they don't get outright censored because you know they're all about the censoring and like that gay people, we can't have that in our show,
right.
which is why like Steven Universe has like some episodes banned in like 15 different countries because of how it was. And then again, it picked up with Cosmic Fury, but I guess by then it was on Netflix, so it's not like on network TV anymore. You have to go and have the subscription to watch it. And it picked up a little bit, but at that point, I'm watching other shows like you mentioned Lupet. That really like pulls at your heartstring, and it's like for kids, but it's just the message about wanting, the sacrifices you make, or them trying to bring back their lost loved ones, and then that is a message that I did. Just looking at it, like I think, like just seeing how they reacted throughout the series between the Lupin Rangers and the Pattern Rangers. I think with them having like coming to an eventual like mutual understanding, or them finding out what they're going through, I think like I ended up shedding a tear, especially with the moment between like uh, Lupin Red and Pattern One, where he's like pleading with them. He's like, "Is there anything that we can do for you?" And then he's like, "Yo, we're thieves. You can't be helping us out." And he's really trying to reach out to him, and it's like there's nothing they can do. And I don't know why, but I shed a tear just at that moment. And there's a lot of moments in Super Sentai where like it's a more mature story that it really gets you emotional, and we lose a little bit of that with Power Rangers. But our original like shows, original Saban run, and for that some of the Disney run, you had some of that, and then it just,
Right.
as you said, as soon as Samurai hits, it's like, what happened? I mean, Lost Galaxy, we had actual Lost and Lost Galaxy. We had, I guess in a way, it's like xenophobia with Time Force, because a Quantum Ranger just wanting to shoot the dude because he's an alien, and
Right.
it's like, that within itself is like you're watching. It's like, what's going on here? And you're learning this lesson, and now it's just, I mean, there's still lessons to be learned, but they're just not on that same level as they used to be.
Right. That's a good segue for me to ask this question before we go. Power Rangers had a 30-year long stretch. It's been about 2-3 years since the franchise has ended, even though Super Sentai is still ongoing. Power Rangers has done a lot of things when it comes to representation and diversity over its 30 years run, but it also left a lot on the table. Like you mentioned, it waited till the 28th, 29th, 30th seasons to introduce queer characters in Izzy and Fern and actually showing their relationship on screen. It took them 28, 29, 30 years to have more than one African American be a Power Ranger on the same team. We got Zato being the Red Ranger, finally had some light skinned representation, and then Ion coming in being the Gold Ranger, the first black Sixth Ranger. And now that I think about it, we've only had like 2 other minority Sixth Rangers, and that's Jim and Jimmy from RPM.
Yep.
Well, I guess Antonio, if you want to call it that too.
Yeah.
Think about it. That's a question for BD Babiaga. I'll get on that.
Yeah,
But,
it's. Oh, sorry.
No, the question I want to ask you is, with all that being said, what were some things you wanted to see in Power Rangers a lot sooner, or what were some things that Power Rangers left on the table when it comes to diversity, equity, inclusion, and representation?
The whole, just as a whole, and this applies to both Power Rangers and Super Sentai. The color scheme, it seems that for the longest, that colors seem to be locked behind gender. So, here in the United States, a lot of the times the Yellow Rangers, who were like guys in the Super Sentai counterparts, were women, and they did change that. Where I think it was Dustin and Ninja Storm was the first time that they had a guy as the Yellow Ranger.
Right.
Of course, Dawn Brothers hit that point where they're like, let's have the Pink Ranger a dude, and we never got that in Power Rangers. I would, for just to break that like gender roles for like colors, and which they did. Power Rangers did it very well because Super Sentai has yet to have a female Red Ranger. Oh, a female core Red Ranger or actual leader. Yeah. Oh my gosh. We had the one in Shinkenger, but she was just there for a little bit. But we actually had Hunter, as the lead for Cosmic Fury, which was great. Unfortunately, it was only 10 episodes. I wish it had been
Right.
longer, but at least they did that. At least she was made to be her. At least her character is made to be the Red Ranger, which is really good. But yeah, the whole the locking colors behind genders. I would have loved to see them do different colors. Even now we've there's the purple. Did we? No, we. Oh, they did. They had purple for Dino Charge, but it was a late. It
Well,
was
they
a
also
late.
had purple in Jungle Fury too.
Oh, yeah, that's right, RJ. Oh my gosh, yes.
And I think
Uh,
at Dino Charge they had a male Purple Ranger and then a female Purple Ranger in the Super Dino Charge season, or something.
yeah, yeah,
Because I think the male Ranger in the Violet male Ranger in Dino Charge was also their old. No, that was the Cyan guy.
yeah,
He was the old American dude, but in the Sentai he was an old Japanese guy. Okay. I agree with you. Amelia only having 10 episodes and then like how they told that story, like why would you destroy the fucking Cosmic Fury Zords? Whatever.
yeah.
That they left a lot on the table with that. I they Javi in Dino Charge, I mean in Cosmic Fury, him losing his arm, I was like, oh my
Yeah,
god, that's a dope thing. And then like they kind of just like, oh, your arm is fixed. 10 minutes later, I was like, no, show us the story of him dealing with him losing his arm during his ranger duties.
and if we had those extra episodes, I'm sure that they would have done that, and they didn't. It's just like, hey, here's the prosthetic. 5 seconds later, like,
Right.
come on now.
I wanted to see Javi morph into his Cosmic Fury suit with an arm missing. I wanted him to be the reason why they flip the orbs in the air and land perfectly in their morpher, which can never happen in real life.
Yeah, oh my gosh, that you saying that actually makes perfect sense.
Thank
Because
you.
he'd have to, and then
And he has to like throw it in the air in the same arm, and then like with his face flick up the thing, and then it lands, and then they're like, "Hey, we'll just build you a robot arm, so you have to do all that or something." Like I do appreciate them. I'm sorry for yelling, but I do appreciate that they told or at least tried to tell the story of an amputee. I like that they actually had disabled representation and they actually did the proper channels on the production side of things and having disabled people come in and actually, like coach Javi, his actor, on how to portray the role and things like that. But they didn't go far enough with the story.
no, they didn't. There's a lot of stuff that they attempted to introduce, but it just doesn't. It just didn't. Not enough. Not enough episodes. And I
Right.
do remember that they were talking that uh Izzy and Fern to delve more into their relationship. They were going to have Izzy was going to be more overprotective, and that in itself would have been a good story to see. But they had to cut that out, so they had to she had to be overprotective, and then Fern becomes a ranger, and then it's just like, hey, water under the bridge, instead of actually having a argument and then learning how to resolve arguments. But it just,
Right.
again, they didn't have enough time.
And then I cannot believe I'm saying this because I despise the color orange so much, but you finally get an official Orange Ranger and she gets 3 minutes of screen time. Granted, she gets a cool line, she gets a cool weapon, that's cool, but she gets 3 minutes of screen time as a Ranger. And then they don't even do a full team morph because at the end when Ollie turns good again and becomes the blue Cosmic Fury Ranger with Zato's Cosmic Shenpagan orb, don't color changes Ghost say ruined it, but we never get a full 17 member morph together, and I'm just so disappointed. And what is the Zenith Ranger? Why is he Shenpagan?
That all questions that will never be resolved.
Never be answered.
Never be answered.
Stuff that keeps me up at night.
Interesting choice to use. But
Shenpagan, I never thought I'd see Shenpagan as a color in Power Rangers.
They
Not
did
gold,
it.
not silver Shanpagan.
They did it. They did it. I laugh
Gold and
about it.
silver is not a good color together. It is not a good color together. I'm sorry. I'm just laughing.
Oh, you're good.
But before we go, because I know we've been on for a hot minute, but why don't you tell us a little bit about your content, a little bit more about your content. Like, how do you approach creating your content? Do you just go on and just find something that interests you in Power Rangers and Super Sentai that you just want to talk about, or how, or you just wing it?
Most of the time I just wing it. I used to cover my reviews. I would write in-depth reviews. At first when I started the my TikTok, I wanted to do like an episode analysis of Zoodranger, but as I started, like, it was my rewatch, and I'm like, okay, I can sit down and I can write these notes, and it just devolved into like I'm just watching, and I'm like, oh, I don't think I need the note. So I, instead of just doing it like an episode by episode thing, I'd just do I'd watch the whole thing and then do a review. And my intent is always to want to pull people into the world of Super Sentai if they've never seen it before. I'd um I'd always compare it. I would make bits of comparisons to the show, the American counterpart. So when I talked about Zyuranger, I talk about Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. I'd talk about some differences, but I would leave enough out to want to entice them to watch it. And then I did it with Dire Ranger, Kaku Ranger, so on and so forth. I think I wrote a review all the way through. I want to say Deca Ranger. Unfortunately, again, I lost those. I don't. I have only two saved, and one's Hurricaneger, but I cannot put it back onto TikTok without editing it. I might edit it and put it back out there. And I think I still have my either Abba Ranger one or Deca Ranger one. But for a lot of other stuff, it's I kind of wing it. Sometimes I'll think of like fun facts I want to talk about. Like I remember like one of my first fun facts was talking about the actor that plays Ninja Red from Kaku Ranger, who's also um, Hyuga in Ginga Man. His actor did the motion capture for the original Resident Evil 4. And I'm like, and when I first saw that, I'm like, wow, that's really cool. I want to talk about other stuff. So I started talking about other fun facts and actors, like the narrator for Zoodranger, who's also the narrator for like some other Toku shows, is like the voice of Homer Simpson and Darth Vader and the Japanese dubs of Simpsons and Star Wars, which is insane. So it became partly looking up fun facts, and then being inspired by like we talked about her earlier, Beauty Baba Yaga, and how some of her videos, I was inspired to make like the Super Sentai counterparts, because she talked about how, I remember one video she talked about Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and them wearing the same colors, and if anybody had worn anything different than their colors. And I'm like, I want to see about that. And then I went back and looked at like Kaku Ranger, where if you look at them in their civilian clothes and not their ninja garbs, it's really hard to tell who's what color because they're all wearing like a mix of different colors. Or Die Ranger, they would wear like all some of them were like all black, covering their colors, and it was just interesting to see. But then you have like the likes of Gal Ranger, which is similar to Wild Force, where they just have a jacket and it's like, I guess you're that color. But
Right.
it's just different stuff. I'm sorry, I could probably go on for hours. I'm a dial it back. But a lot of the times, it's just if I'm inspired, I'll just wing it and make it, and then sometimes I just make a meme just to dunk on Super Mega Force.
Yeah, whenever I like feeling sad with myself and I want a bunch of views, I just like crap on Super Mega Force. Like that Cat Williams meme. Oh my god. With the Shannon Sharp interview, I did that so much. Like it's not like you to consider yourself a losers or something. I was like, oh my god, that's the meme. That's the meme. Before we go, I'm gonna give you a soapbox to stand on. Is there anything that we talked about? Because we just talked about Power Rangers the whole time. But is there anything on your heart, on your mind and soul that you want to talk about that we didn't discuss? Any cause or anything close to your heart that you want to talk about? The floor is yours. You can promote yourself. You can talk about Palestine. I don't care.
Well, first of all, if anybody sees any links about Palestine, share them, donate if you can. we are living in such a crazy world. It is a horrific. A lot of stuff going on is horrific. A lot of so there's a lot of people still sharing. If you can, repost, share links, donate if you can. There are a lot of people, especially them trying to starve out people, is horrific. There's some other places that need help too. Congo still needs help. I believe Haiti needs help. A lot of people in a lot of places all over the world need help. I know that we're only just a few individuals, but if we can band together, we can, help out these people because I know we have this. I know we're still going through some stuff here, but it's nice that we can actually do this and that we can talk. But there's people that can't even do that. I want people to be able to survive this crazy world. So all those, like you say, if you see a link and if you can't donate, at least repost it so that way other people can see it. And I'll say another thing that's more related to our nerd spaces here. Gatekeeping is kind of icky, really icky. We should welcome people when we can. I remember you were talking about I saw a video of yours earlier talking about what we can do to help make women feel safe and approachable into the community. We show them love and we show them respect. If they are a fan of something, we don't question it. We don't quiz them. We say that's cool. And when I mean quiz, don't be like, if you love Power Rangers, who was blah blah blah, something that's like aggressive. Like if they say like I love Power Rangers, like oh cool, who's your favorite Ranger? Are you cosplaying your favorite Ranger, your favorite character? Stuff like that. We want to make sure that we want to be inclusive to everyone, and a lot of toxic masculinity has found its way into a lot of fandoms, and we have a lot of work to do to try to get it out of the fandoms. And it starts with it starts with us. We got to make sure that if somebody's doing the stuff that they shouldn't be doing, that we should say, hey, that's not very cool of you. We want to be welcoming. We want to bring people into our fandoms. We want to bring them in. We want them to enjoy what we enjoy. And that's kind of like why I started what I did, is because at the end of the day, I feel like Tokusatsu, Super Sentai, and a lot of stuff is like my hyper fixation, but I want everybody to enjoy it. And I know that there are a lot of different shows and different series to enjoy, and somebody might like one that I don't like, or vice versa. But I want them to feel included in the community. And it's not just for that, it's just for all of our fandoms. Again, it should be a place for welcoming. And I say all welcoming, but, keep the really bad people out. If, somebody's going to treat people badly, we don't want them in the community. We want to be welcoming, warming, and all of that.
Gotcha. I 100% agree. We got to protect women in nerdy spaces. And
exactly.
Stop quizzing them. They do not like being quizzed.
No,
that's it.
That, and literally, if a woman comes up to talk to you, do not assume that she's interested. She just wants to talk about the fandom. That's another thing. But that extends to everywhere, where it's like, oh my gosh, she must be interested in me if she's talking about that. It's like, no, might be just wanting to make a friend that's interested in the same thing that you are. Do not be creepy. And it's just, again, remove all that toxic masculinity from the spaces. And like I said, it starts with us to call out this behavior and everything too. And one more shout out is to a certain mutual who talks about magical girls. She with her, she'll talk about magical girls, and I think she does a bit of like power scaling, and then people will come in and be like, well, Kamen Rider and Power Rangers and can beat magical girls, and I stuff like that shouldn't be done too. If everybody should be able to voice their opinions without any sort of harassment. And I just want to shout out magical girls, because they are under the Tokusatsu umbrella because of oh my gosh, I'm gonna kick myself for not remembering, but it's another Toei program that airs adjacent to the superhero during the superhero time. Precure. I've remembered. Okay, we're good. That's all I wanted to say too.
I personally, and I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, magical girls are are freaking awesome. They are so Power Rangers adjacent. Because like I often like look at Sailor Moon and the Sailor Scouts and like Mighty Morphin and like the first all the Zordon era Power Rangers around that time. Like they're the same thing. One's for boys, one's for girls. That's just how that went during that time. Sailor Moon can destroy the entire universe and kill Goku,
Literally,
Man, and all these other people. Um,
literally.
if
But
we
they're not
want
ready.
to
They're not
properly
ready for
power
that.
scale,
Yes, but they are not ready for that conversation.
they are
A
not
lot of
ready for
people,
that conversation. But Sailor Moon is really powerful. Do your research, look her up. There's a reason why
yes,
Death Metal don't touch her.
that 100%. Don't even try it. Goku's gone. He's donezo.
Right.
That and a lot of like most other anime universes and even Toku. But yeah, for me personally, I'm not a power scaler, but I that's the one thing I will say. I'm like Sailor Moon solos.
Yeah, Sailor Moon bodies people. Sailor Moon will body people. But that's enough of the nerd stuff for the night because it is late. But thank you for
Yeah,
coming on. I really appreciate it. Trust me, I'm going to be on TikTok anticipating your next video after this interview. So I cannot wait. But for everybody else, this has been Blerdkast. This has been my Power Rangers RSP Ranger Stop and Pop Week. I would like to thank my guest, the Sentai Guy, Rensei, for coming on and just learning out about my favorite
yeah.
fandom, his favorite fandom, and the Japanese counterpart. I do want to ask you before we go, because people are going to ask me in the comments, which one you like better, Super Sentai or Power Rangers? Be honest.
Like, oh no, the call. If I may be completely honest, while I have both still, I have room for both in my heart. I have a slight preference for Super Sentai, but Power Rangers is where it began for me, so it still holds a place in my heart. But it's just when I saw Super Sentai and saw some of the stories that were being told, I was just like, Power Rangers tried but could not get to that level and then regressed from the level that they were. But both hold a special place in my heart, and there's a little bit of Kamen Rider in there too. But definitely Super Sentai.
That's interesting. That is really interesting. I'm gonna say this. Like you, Power Rangers is always in my heart, but I got a Super Sentai is ongoing as of right now.
And then Power Rangers isn't. Yep.
Right, and I kind of like I'm gonna get new Sentai seasons. I don't know if we're gonna get new Power Ranger seasons. That's gonna keep me. I mean, I'm always go back to it, and I'm always hope that they do something with Power Rangers. But the more mature stories, just some of the stuff that you see in Super Sentai versus Power Rangers, like you see people dying, you see civilians dying, buildings being destroyed. Sometimes stuff don't get fixed and it's just
Yeah.
rubble. There's
Oh,
more violence, cussing, adult things like kissing, and actual martial arts and fighting and punching and kicking. Don't get me wrong, Super Sentai has its things, its tropes. Oh my god, Super Sentai is full of tropes, but I'm learning Japanese when I watch, like not conversationally, but like depending on the cut
yeah.
you get, sometimes they'll have translation notes. So I am learning Japanese while I'm watching it, but that's just the case for anime in general, or anything that comes out of Japan. But Power Rangers is special to me,
It.
but it
Yeah.
is not current, and that means
Yeah.
something.
That. Yeah. I mean, what do we have right now? Just a AI touch up that's on YouTube, and the possibility maybe of something happening with developed on Disney Plus, but nothing concrete.
I do
Super
not want to
Sentai.
even talk about that AI touch up crap. Like all they did
No,
was just increase the contrast a little bit.
yep. But yeah, Super Sentai's ongoing. There's a bunch of it might be tropey, but there's some serious stuff. I literally in the middle of watching Shinkenger, they're asking about what's wrong with the kid. He's like, oh, he lost his parents to a monster attack, and I'm like, consequences of the actions, the monsters attacking. Meanwhile, in Power Rangers, they've attacked the empty warehouse district.
Again, that constantly gets rebuilt and looks oddly enough like Tokyo. But I won't say anything if you won't. Oh man, Rick Schick is hilarious. But yeah, oh my god, next week is gonna be so dope. Like, dude, seriously, watch all the content that's coming out next week. It's hours long of podcasts like this one, but the stuff we talk about is dope, from representation to like why does it look different from the Japanese to the American footage. It was a lot of stuff we talked about. So next week is gonna be dope. But everybody, this has been Blerdkast. Thank y'all for joining us on this episode. You can find Blerdkast everywhere you watch your podcast or listen to your podcast on the internet: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Google Music, and so many other places. And please, if you can, subscribe to Blerdography on YouTube. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Red Note, Fanbase. Nobody's on Fanbase, Blue Sky, and all the other social media apps, because I got them all after the apocalypse, because I could not. I'm a millennial. I'm sorry, I'm a millennial. And one last note: if you want to become a member of the Blerd Nation, you can do so by just joining. Hit that join button right below and become a member for as low as $2 a month and get exclusive benefits and access to early videos like this one and so many others, and special members only content, members only polls, members only posts, and so much more to come over the summer. So please, for $2, help me get to Dragon Con and Atlanta Comic Con and AWA and all these other conventions, and I can keep making these amazing videos for y'all. But until then, I'm out. Peace.